Well, good afternoon. Happy Thursday to you. Phil O'Leary coming from Legacy Planning Law Group. On this Thursday, it is the 29th of July. Boy, July is almost finished and August is right around the corner. So, coming to you live as part of our Thirsty Thursday series. And again, each week on Thursday at about this time, I go live and talk about a different legal topic that we see in the areas that I practice in: estate planning, wills and trust, and elder law, and then probate as well. So if you're thirsting for knowledge, you've come to the right place. So today's topic is: can I give some of my IRA required withdrawal to a charity? Okay, so look, I'm sure you've heard of an IRA. Maybe you even have one. A lot of us do these days. If you're age 72 or older than 72, then what you've discovered is you have to start taking money out of your IRA, assuming it's a traditional IRA. You can't leave the money in there forever. These are called required minimum distributions, or for short, they're referred to as RMDs. RMDs. So if you fall into this category, you're 72 or older, you have an IRA, and if you also would like to give some money to one or more charities, if you're sort of charitably inclined, I want to tell you about a wonderful tax benefit that's out there called a qualified charitable distribution. We call it a QCD for short. So a QCD is where you basically take money from your IRA and you transfer it, money that you would otherwise have to take out from the IRA as that required minimum distribution, that RMD, and then you send it directly to a charity of your choice. The reason why it gives you a tax benefit is that no tax has to be paid on that money that comes out of the IRA. So maybe to help you better understand that, let's take a step back and sort of talk about sort of a basic concept, and that is what happens if you take a distribution out of your IRA and you put the money in your pocket or in your personal bank account. What happens? Assuming that the IRA we're talking about is a traditional IRA as opposed to maybe a Roth IRA, that's treated differently, but most people have what's known as a traditional IRA. With that kind of account, you have to pay tax when the money is taken out. Why? Because the tax hasn't been paid yet. The money's been sitting in your IRA for all these years, just waiting to be taxed when you eventually take it out. So basically, think of the IRS sitting there with its hand out, wanting to collect its toll charge when the money is eventually taken out of the IRA account. So let's say you have an IRA, just as an example. You have an account, and according to the IRS's tables, you're required to take out $25,000 a year. Let's say that's the example we're talking about. Well, you have to pay tax on that $25,000 that you take out because it's taxable income to you. Okay, just like earning, money in your job, taxable income. The same thing with money that you take out of a traditional IRA. Now, let's say instead of taking the money out of the IRA yourself and putting it into your bank account, you redirect that same $25,000 in this example from your IRA to a charity of your choice. Does tax have to be paid on that $25,000? Because after all, tax hasn't been paid yet, right? So does tax have to be paid? Won't the IRS reach their hand out and want to collect their tax payment? The answer is no. The answer is no. Tax will not have to be paid. Why? Because the money is going to a charity, and under the tax laws, a charity doesn't have to pay tax on income. It's what we call tax exempt. It's tax exempt. Now, just as a cautionary note, if you're interested in doing this, that for this to work, the charity that is getting the money has to be what's called a public charity. Maybe you've heard the term a 501c3. It has to be, a charity that has elected 501c3 status. So, and I say that because, I've run across situations where maybe like a really small church, they haven't obtained their 501c3 status. So if you're going to direct some of your IRA money to that small church, that is not a 501c3, this isn't going to work. But but the bigger charities that you've heard of, certainly they have 501c3 for sure. So if the tax doesn't have to be paid, who do you think the big loser in all of this is with this qualified charitable distribution, this QCD? Who's the big loser? The government. Why? Because they don't get their tax payment. Kind of nice. So now the money that you transfer to the charity, not only is no tax paid on it, but it also satisfies your RMD requirement. So back to that example I gave you where with the IRA, you have to take an RMD out of $25,000, okay? So if you instead redirect that $25,000 to the charity, then the IRS says you have basically met your RMD requirement. It's not like you have to take out an additional $25,000 and put it in your bank account. You don't have to do that. So you've satisfied your obligation and no tax is paid. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, okay, great, this whole QCD, Qualified Charitable Distribution concept is great, but is it any different than what we have done historically over the years? You would take money that you own and make a direct contribution to a charity and then take a tax write-off for that, what we call a charitable tax deduction. Is there any difference between the two? You go, well, yeah, there's some really big differences that are in your favor if you go down the QCD route. The first difference is this, that if you were to just take money from your bank account, let's say if you were to take money out of your IRA, okay, and you have it distributed to yourself and you put it in your bank account as step one, and then step two, you write a check out of your bank account to the charity, you might not get any tax write-off, tax benefit from doing that. The reason is that you only get to take a tax write-off for a charitable, gift if you itemize your deductions. So hang with me for a minute. The only people that itemize their deduction are people who have lots of expenses, okay, that they can write off against their taxes. Things like home mortgage insurance and real estate taxes, as well as any charitable contributions that they've made. So under the current tax law, most people don't itemize their deductions because the total amount of all of their expenses, their deductions, is less than what we call the standard deduction. And the standard deduction is a tax break that every one of us has that we can take on our taxes. Currently, that standard deduction is for an individual person $12,400, and for a couple $25,100. So every one of us has that given to us as a tax write-off off of our taxes. So if the total amount of your personal deductions is less than the standard deduction of $12,400 for a single person, again $25,100 for a married couple, then there's no reason for you to itemize your deduction because you'd be getting less of a tax break than if you would just go ahead and take the standard deduction that's given to you. It would be better to take that larger standard deduction because it's a better tax break. Okay? So again, most people who end up taking the standard deduction, they would see no tax benefit, no tax break by taking the money out of their IRA as step one, putting it in their bank, and then as step two, writing a check from their bank to the charity. Okay? So that's the big difference, number one, between sort of the way things have been done for years and doing this new QCD approach. There's a second big difference why the QCD is better. So imagine this: if you do the sort of the way things were done in the past, you take money out of the IRA, you put it in your bank account. Step one, step two, you write a check out of your bank account to the charity. Okay. That can have 4 negative tax consequences to you. Negative consequence number one is the amount that you took out of your IRA and put it in your bank account is added to your income, and it might push you into a higher tax bracket. Number one. Number two, the amount that you withdrew from your IRA might increase the amount of tax that you have to pay on your Social Security benefits. Okay, number two. Number three, the amount that you took out of the IRA and put in your bank account might increase your Medicare premiums, which you're paying in premiums for Medicare. That's number three. And then number four, negative tax consequence number four, is that that the amount you took out of your IRA, again, and put it in the bank account, what that could do is increase the amount of tax that you pay for your Medicare benefits, what's called the Medicare surtax that came into being with Obamacare. So, sort of doing it the more traditional way, taking the money out of the IRA first, drop it in your bank account, and then step two, writing a check out of your bank account to the charity, really can have some bad tax consequences for you. So then let's compare that to this qualified charitable distribution approach, this QCD. So again, instead of doing that, the two-step like I just described, if you instead have the money from your IRA transferred directly to the charity, that amount is excluded from your taxable income. And that can have the effect of lowering your taxes by keeping you in a lower tax bracket, number one, reducing the amount of tax that you might pay on your Social Security benefits, number two, and reducing this Medicare surtax you have to pay, number three. And oh, by the way, it can lower your Medicare premiums as well. Those are substantial differences in why this QCD, or qualified charitable distribution approach, is so much better. Now, as with any IRS rule, there are some requirements that you have to meet. Number one, you have to be at least age 70 and a half or older at the time that you process the qualified charitable distribution, where you instruct them to send the money directly to the charity. Okay, number one. Number two, for this QCD to count towards your RMD requirement, the money has to come out of your IRA by the end of the year, by December 31. Okay, and then number three, the money has to be transferred directly from the IRA to the charity. You can't have a check, made payable to you that's sent to you. Okay. Where then you deposit it in your bank account and then write a personal check out of your bank account to the charity. That does not work. The IRA company needs to issue a check made payable directly to the charity and send it directly to the charity. Don't have it funneled through you. And then the last requirement is that the maximum amount that can qualify for this QCD is $100,000 per year. So if your RMD amount is less than $100,000 this year, you're good to go, and you can redirect that entire RMD amount to charity. And oh, by the way, that maximum amount of $100,000 per year, you multiply that by 2, you double it for a married couple. And oh, by the way, if you happen to have, instead of a traditional IRA, your own account, let's say you have inherited in our IRA from another family member, what we call an inherited IRA, you can also do this QCD, qualified charitable distribution, for the inherited IRA. So there you have it. I know this talk got a little technical compared to some of my other talks, and some would say sort of geeky from a tax standpoint, so I apologize for that. But I thought it was important to talk about this topic because nowadays a lot of people have a lot of assets in their IRAs. Most of their assets are in IRA accounts. And a lot of these people are also kind-hearted and are charitably motivated. So I think they deserve to know the most tax-efficient way to give money to a charity. And so when you think about it, doing this qualified charitable distribution, QCD, is a win-win-lose proposition. What do I mean by that? Well, you win, the charity wins, and the government loses because they don't get their tax payment. What could be sweeter than that? So look, hey, if you'd like to know a little bit more about, how you can go about giving some of your IRA to your charity, and would maybe like to know how we can sort of help guide you with that, we'd love to talk to you. Encourage you to book a free 15-minute discovery phone call. You can, call us at the office. You can Google us, Legacy Planning Law Group, or use the Book Now button there on the Facebook page. And again, that call is complimentary. Okay. So hey, if you've enjoyed this, would you please like this video, and better yet, would you mind sharing it with your friends? I would imagine you have friends that either are old enough to be taking required distributions out of the IRA and have charities in mind, Or maybe you have friends whose parents are in that situation. Love for you to share the video so they can learn as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk, which is called, again, Can I Give Some of My IRA Required Distributions to Charity? I plan on giving another Facebook Live talk next Thursday about this time, again, as part of our Thirsty Thursday series. So if you're thirsting for knowledge, we will quench your thirst. So, hey, hope you have a great rest of the day and great weekend. Bill O'Leary saying we will see you next week, and go make it a great day and a better world.